Thank you all for having us here. Amaha is a mental health partner, aiming to be the mental health partner for all organizations in India. That was such a great lead-in to mental health services within organizations. Thank you. Because I'm so glad to see that everyone said you'd hire Chris, even though he was different. Because a lot of my clients are different. And they probably may not have combed their hair the way you want, but no, they're not different to other human beings. And they have skill sets that we may not have. You know, you might all have heard about neurodivergence, and everyone is not the same. But everyone are really good at something that they themselves own, right? And seeing that neurodivergence is very important. But today I'm here to talk about mind matters, from early signs to expert care. So we did a small survey with all of you, but we had a very small cohort of you answer this just now, from morning till now. And we asked, what is your understanding of mental health? And thankfully, the 16 of you who answered, all answered saying it's about emotional and psychological well-being and nothing else, right? So mental health is defined by WHO as a complete well-being of your mental health and not just the absence of mental illness. So mental health lies on a spectrum. We all know that at one end of the spectrum there's illness, where there's established dysfunction and disorders. But there's also a middle ground where a lot of stagnation and emptiness is there. This is where I think HR professionals can help these individuals significantly, because these people will be directly visible to you and not yet visible to professionals like me, right? And seeking the right help and support at that time is crucial for them to then progress on to a flourishing mind, leaving positive emotions, being thriving in their own life. So whenever I put this slide up, everyone has a question thinking that I've just made up these numbers. I promise you I've not made up these numbers, and this slide is only to say how big a problem mental health is in the world and in India. A 1 trillion issue, 1/3 of global burden. The National Mental Health Program estimates 7% of Indian population experiences mental illness. 59% of employees are struggling with some form of stress. And since COVID, we have an increased rate of mental disorders of all kinds, especially anxiety and depression. And suicide rates, unfortunately, in India is among one of the highest. So how do we recognize signs of mental disorder? I'm going to just let you read this slide because it's just odd for me to read it this way. It's about a 28-year-old IT analyst who does all these odd things that we may think are either difficult behavior or things that we need to put the person on a PIP for, right? He's having difficulties at home, he's having difficulties at work, and you know, like if not viewed in the right light, it's very easy to see his performance and say he's not performing well, so he needs to be discarded in whatever way. But the same person, if given the right support and help, can go back to that flourishing whole person. And that's the whole point of this. Therapy, stress management, exercises, medication, whatever is needed. Giving him the right support, giving the family the right support to support this individual, making sure his work environment and his home environment is good, is what we need to give this individual as a society to help him come back into thriving mode. It's very easy to put people on PIPs and get them out of a company. Harder to do this, but this is what we need to do. 35-year-old sales executive, thrived on excitement. So if you read the first paragraph, it's about periods of excitement and periods of low mood. When an external person sees this, it will seem as very odd, very different, as what one of the attendees talked about, insanity. This person is insane, right? But I had one such client from a very good company, bipolar affective disorder, had an episode of manic episode, full-blown manic episode in the office. I was so happy to see that the organization supported her, got her into hospital, admitted her into hospital. Even when she had no family in Bangalore, they could, nominate someone to sign the papers, supported her through that admission, and now she's again back to being, a full-fledged employee, well-respected, doing good for the company and for herself and her family. So just because there are serious mental illnesses like bipolar affective disorder or serious depression does not mean that the patient cannot, or the person cannot come back into full-time meaningful work. Again, another case of a major depressive disorder where a person can withdraw, can seem like he's neglecting his duties at home or at work, can be seen as missing deadlines, being sorry, guilty, just being underconfident all the time. But that's just an episode of depression. An episode of depression, if well treated, lasts only 6 weeks, and with continued support, may never come back to the patient. So why do we discard these people and not help them in a way that they come back into the society thriving? Some of the words people use of feeling hopeless and trapped, very specific things that you might hear in, HR conversations, in one-to-one conversations when you are with employees. This feeling of stuckness and hopelessness is one of the things we very keenly observe for as mental health professionals. And if you observe that, getting them good professional support is the most important thing for them to get back to recovery. So what are the support systems we can give? What are the challenges of working caregivers? So as we head into our 30s and 40s, we all realize there may be some younger people here, but we become caregivers. We are caregivers for the younger generation, and we are caregivers for the older generation. Plus, we have a very busy schedule at work. So the emotional and physical stress that causes on individuals, the amount of effort you need to put to look after not just your work commitments, but also everything at home. The caregiving and career duties conflict. If the company you're working for doesn't have flexibility and you have time constraints on your caregiving duties, or you may even have financial issues or the sacrifices that you make either in your career or as a human being. Like if you're a good mother, you can't be a good CEO. If you're a good CEO, you can't be a good mother. And you're constantly juggling these things to make sure you're good at everything. And the impact that it has on family dynamics. Almost 4 in 10 Indian millennials stepped into a caregiving role for the first time during the COVID-19 epidemic. And we think this is going to just increase. And also there's enough mental health rights in the workplace. I don't need to tell a group of HR people what the law is around mental health and workplace. But again, from the survey we did with the 16 of you answering, half of you thought that talking to friends and family is what helps when dealing with mental health challenges, and half of you thought professional counseling and therapy helps. The answer to this is all of it, really, right? It depends on where on the spectrum of mental health you are. Yes, when it's simple, just support from family and friends might be enough, and then therapy might become important, and then medications may be important, and then inpatient services may become important at a later date. What can you do as leaders in your organization? Leaders set the context in the organization. HR sets the context in the organization. So people are going to do what you do. It's said, right? People usually follow what not I say, but what I do, right? So making sure that you prioritize your self-care, that you encourage and follow work-life balance, that you promote open communication, and you address mental health openly. And there is no stigma around talking about depression or anxiety or suicide or postnatal depression is very important. So as leaders, if we can do this, then it's more likely that our employees are going to be more open about their own mental health needs. So I present Amaha's integrated mental health ecosystem. We're an organization striving to create the largest mental health ecosystem in India. We started off as an organization just giving mental health therapy sessions online during pre-COVID and COVID. Then we've added psychiatry into it. And now we have outpatient centers across Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi. First inpatient center is going to come up in Bangalore soon. We have an omni-platform therapy and psychiatry service, personalized self-care tools and resources. Please download our app. It has a lot of self-help resources. We have awareness-building engagement programs. We run a lot of B2B services. We have groups intervention support services, and we have proprietary diagnostics. So 7 OPD centers so far, 1 inpatient center coming up in January, and more than 250 trained clinicians. Thank you.